Good day, everyone. So, today you have just learned some of the ideologies surrounding global Englishes, namely native speakerism, standard language ideology, and monolingualism. But I want to ask you once more, who do you think are the best speakers of English? And what is an ideal English is like? So, to further clarify your thoughts about these questions, let us learn more of the ideologies surrounding global Englishes. So, stay tuned. So, before we dig into our discussions, let us have first Figure 7.2 English Online Lesson Website in Japan. Now, Japan is running an online lessons. Okay, students who are taking them can choose from any of the three types of English instructors as being reproduced and translated in the figure 7.2. Now, only in the middle type of English instructors represented by a white, blonde hair look and associated with real pronunciation and expression, along with proper and deeper understanding of English. Now, the photos of Japanese and Filipino instructors are laid aside, somewhat implying that they are second-class English speakers. Now, the website claims that native English-speaking instructors all have strong connections with the Caribbean inner circle, mostly in the US and Canada. This time, we will discover more ideologies surrounding global Englishes, the ideology of authenticity and the ideology of anonymity. Now, first off, we have the ideology of authenticity, or being real and true. This refers to how local and vernacular a given speech variety is. The ideology of authenticity uses the indexical functions of language, or the capacity of language to point out into something without directly referring to it. So according to Woolen 2016, the ideology of authenticity claims that the value of language points in its relationship to a particular community, or simply saying that a speech variety must be perceived as deeply rooted in a social and geographic territory in order to have its value. So, for example, if we have African American vernacular English, this should be grounded in identifiable local spaces shared by African American descendants in order for this African American vernacular English not to lose its value according to this ideology. So in African American vernacular English in the US, the roots are often located in the soulful streets of the urban ghetto or barrio, where the real folks are said to be busy keeping it real. And to be considered authentic, a speech variety must be very much from somewhere in the speaker's consciousness, and thus its meaning is profoundly local. If social and territorial roots are not discernible, a linguistic variety lacks value in this system. So, in support to the effort of this ideology in keeping a language authentic, one must not interact with outsiders, or one must not learn other languages or language varieties to avoid risk of contaminating its speakers' natural language habitats. So as for English language in the ideology of authenticity, English has a value such of an Anglophone speech community, or people belonging in this group are supposed to have attributes to speak national standard varieties of English without interference from external languages or language varieties. So any type of British English is an outsider per ideology of authenticity. This time, we'll go deeper into another ideology of global Englishes, namely the ideology of anonymity. Now, the contrasting ideology of anonymity assumes that hegemonic language in modern society often rests their authority on the idea of anonymity, according to Woolen 2016. So, in anonymity, authority resides in its perceived neutrality or universality as everyone's belongings and not of those limited groups of individuals. Now, this ideology utilizes the referential functions of language. So, language can be generic or universal across communicative contexts. Now, in the referential functions of language, language is used to refer to facts and information. So, English is a type of language that we use to refer to facts, things, and information. So, therefore, it is equally important as any other types of languages that is also used in communicative context.
Now, additionally, per ideology of anonymity, the nationalities and L1 are irrelevant to a hegemonic or socially dominant language like English, since it's denationalized and treated as not a property of its mother tongue speakers. This ideology also tells us that there are desirable languages out there for anyone to aim for and own. So, to further explain the ideology of anonymity, here the citizen speaker is supposed to sound like an everyman using a common language and mark standard public language. In that public standard, we are not supposed to hear the interests and experiences of a historically specific social group. Rather, the language is idealized as a transparent window on a disinterested rational mind and thus on truth itself. And by reasoning, public languages can represent and be used equally by everyone precisely because they belong to no one in a particular. They are positioned as universally open and available in all society. However, it is revealed that the ideology of anonymity is being threatened by some sort of ignorance or lack of knowledge.
Mueller 2005-2016 sees that this ideology of anonymity is constantly besieged or threatened with misrecognizance, as Purdue described as ignorant misrecognition. In the phenomenon of misrecognizance, the public failed to recognize the social and historical trajectory of a dominant language use. Instead, they recognize authority as intrinsic in the language use itself.
So, to reiterate the concept of misrecognition or misrecognizance, here the listeners recognize the authority of a dominant language but fail to recognize historical developments and the material power difference between social groups that underpin that authority. This ideological erasure is what allows dominance to become hegemony. The persuasive power of schools and media, people come to endorse a language's power as genuinely inherent in the language itself, like the Korean language that rose into power through K-pop industry.
So here, people are made to believe that prestige of a language is not a matter of political expediency or usefulness, but a matter of linguistic quality, to the extent that they are unaware of an alternative order. Cultural theorist Raymond Bulliam, 1973, and Buller, 2016, refers this situation as the saturation of consciousness, or as long as people in general are unaware, they will sustain taken for granted reality. So if the society provides only one way of experiencing English or any given languages, then the authority of its use eventually comes to appear. It becomes self-evident and undisputed. Prototypically, we have Japan or the Japanese society. They were the ones who gives narrow representation of English in the direction of misrecognizance to glorify the ideology of being monolingual and standard English.
We also have other societies that have monolingual ideologies along with Japan. We have from China, Chile, Poland, Saudi Arabia, Thailand, and Turkey. To sum up the overall concept, we have this figure. The phenomenon of misrecognizance is what connects the ideology of authenticity and anonymity and allows them to work in collision towards monolingual and standard English ideologies and to achieve native speakerism.
So that is all for the ideology surrounding global Englishes. So I hope you learned something from the discussion, and thank you for listening.